Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you're new to the podcast, check out my interview with Mike Michalowicz. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. On the Profit Answer Man, we learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo-jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rearview mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this, and it's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school, and accountants aren't taught how to be profitable. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more, so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. The stronger you are as a business owner, the more jobs you create, the better we are as a country. Small business owners are the backbone of America, and for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. I find that certain occupations really struggle with money, and one that keeps coming up is creatives. Today, we have on Gabrielle Chipeur, a creative, to share how she conquered that struggle by implementing Profit First. Gabrielle Chipeur is a creative professional who spent the last 16 years at the crossroads of design, technology, and online education. She's worked with Fortune 50 companies, international best-selling authors, and world-renowned motivational speakers. She started her freelance business in 2010 after deciding to stay home with her children instead of going back to corporate. After struggling in her business for 6 years because she was focusing on the wrong things while juggling small kids, client projects, and a pesky need for sleep, she transformed her business and documented all the lessons in her book, Secret Weapon. She's on a mission to stamp out the starving artist stereotype. And on her podcast, The Well-Paid Creative, which I was a guest, she talks about designing a business that supports creativity while being profitable and exploring foundational business practices, which we aren't taught in creative vocational education. She lives just outside the mountains in Canada with her young family and a small menagerie of animals. And when she's not up to her elbows in tech, she's usually covered in paint or whipping up her latest embroidery or crochet project. Let's meet Gabrielle. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Gabrielle Chipeur. It's great to have you on today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here today, Rocky.
And I'm delighted for the conversation. Can you share a little bit with the audience about you and your business?
Absolutely. So I have been a creative for the past, essentially my entire life. But I decided to make a go of it and make a career out of it when I started out of high school. And honestly, it's kind of funny. I never actually had any grand plans to be a business owner or to be an entrepreneur. I just figured I would go and get a job at a nice creative agency. Maybe I'd be a graphic designer or a web designer. And, I'd go in Monday to Friday and I'd collect my paycheck. And, that was my goal. And in 2007, end of 2007, I was 24 years old and I had kind of been working for different companies for a number of years. I got headhunted by Shell Canada. And one of the caveats of accepting the contract with them was that I had to be an incorporated company. So I accidentally became a business owner or an entrepreneur. So I started working with Shell for a number of years. And since I was a contractor, since I was an independent business, I didn't get any of the nice employment insurance or any of those fun little benefits that you get being an employee. And so when I got pregnant with my first son, I kind of had a very hard choice to make. Once I had him, I could either go back as a contractor and start earning money right away, or I could do something different with this business that I was now the owner of. And so I decided to do the latter. Decided to stay home with my son. I didn't want to put him to daycare and, only see him a couple hours a day. So I started working from home, and I started creating websites and doing graphic design and started doing marketing automations for clients. And I just slowly grew my business, just me working from home. And I did that for about 4 years or so before I realized that I sucked at it. Not the actual doing the work part. I am a fantastic web developer. I'm a fantastic marketing automation specialist. But the actual business side, owning the business, doing the finances, doing all of that stuff that comes along with owning a business, I had no idea what I was doing. And so I was failing quite badly at that. And I kind of had this moment where I realized that I had to either take the business owner part seriously if I wanted to continue doing this and continue doing what I loved. And so I started doing just that. I started addressing my finances. And at this point, I was, on a sidebar here, at this point, I was almost $60,000 in debt. I was overworked. I was not paying myself anything. And I was just basically scrambling each and every month. I wasn't making enough money, and I was stressed unbelievably to the max and trying to do all of this while watching a tiny child, 2 tiny children at that point. And so I started taking the steps of getting back on track. I hired a financial advisor. I started working on my finances. I started charging more. I started realizing where I was spending too much money. And I started implementing systems and processes in my business so that I could be more efficient and actually be a business owner, a proper business owner, rather than just a creative with a very expensive hobby. And from there, I tripled my revenue in 1 year. I got to the point where now I make consistent 6 figures every single year. In fact, in 2020, with the pandemic, I made over 6 figures while taking almost 8 months off because I had to deal with some traumatic personal events. So I've gotten to the point where now I'm kind of the repository of all of these lessons that I've learned all the years. And I'm now teaching other creative professionals how to bring that into their business through my new brand called The Well-Paid Creative.
So congrats on the revenue growth. Congrats on realizing that you needed to make a change, and you started to make a change. And I know, I deal with creatives a lot. Systems and processes are like oil and vinegar for creatives. It's not their thing. They like the ability to be free. And so the other half of that is you tend to struggle. And I've noticed when it comes to the business side of business that creatives are one of the groups of people that it tends to be a bigger struggle for. Is that what you've seen?
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest thing is that they don't teach anything business related in the vocational schools, the vocational education that we take as creatives. You go to school and you become a film editor, or you become a graphic designer, or you become a web developer. They teach you how to be a really good web developer or a really good film editor. You learn the skills and you learn all of the, maybe even project management. That would be kind of the closest thing to business skills they teach you. But they don't talk about any sort of business topics. They don't talk about working with your finances. They don't talk about time management. They don't talk about systems and stuff like that. And yet nowadays, I would say a good 80% of people are coming out of these vocational educational programs and are becoming freelancers, are becoming businesses. So there's a very real lack of education in that area.
I have an MBA. They didn't teach me that either. It seems to be a major lacking skill, regardless of where you go to school. And they don't teach you pricing, right? You come out as a freelancer and you think of your value as $1 per hour, which as a creative, it's not really dollar per hour. It's the value you can deliver to the client, because at the end of the day, they're hiring you to help grow their business and to bring in more sales. And so it's a very different pricing structure. And if you don't understand that, you really get stuck in the struggle.
Oh, exactly. And especially when you're a creative and when you're a freelancer, that whole dollars per hour idea just doesn't really work anymore, because you're not booked out 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. A lot of the times you're spending time on admin stuff and you're spending time on marketing, and maybe you have a slow month and you don't have as many clients. And so you need to be able to price accordingly to make sure that you're not just boiling it down to that whole, well, I need to make, $13 an hour in order to survive, because you're not getting that regular paycheck, right? You're not an employee. It's a totally different mindset around pricing.
It is. So what are some of the biggest struggles that you've seen as you work with other creatives?
So the biggest thing has been trying to properly communicate their value and their worth. Now, a lot of creatives get into this because they love doing the work, right? So they love creating their projects. They love solving problems, because it's essentially just a very fancy way of solving problems. And so they love doing the work. But when they're asked to promote themselves, they feel like they're bragging. They feel like they have to be slimy or sleazy, like they didn't get into it to be a salesperson, right? But there's this inherent marketing and promotion that has to come with it that you have to learn to accept. And a lot of them just think that, well, if I just do good work and put it out there, then people will find me. But that's not really it, because good work is everywhere. And really what you have to do is differentiate yourself by the results that you get people through that good work, and really not be afraid of promoting yourself. So that's kind of the major issue that I see with creatives. They just don't want to promote themselves.
And I see that in other areas too. It's just that kind of a mindset. And I get it. And, it's funny, because I think I heard this probably within the last day. They talked about there are some people who are great at what they do, but then there are some people who are really great at marketing what they do. Mm-hmm. And that's who gets all the clients, is the people who are really great at marketing, even if they're not good at doing the work. So even if you're the best creative, the person who's got the good marketing system is going to beat you out every time, unfortunately.
Exactly. And it really is too bad, because these people could be absolutely fantastic at what they do, but they just don't know how to let people know that.
And I think people need to realize, when you're a business owner, you're a salesperson. So either you do the job or you hire a salesperson. And even if you do hire salespeople, the business owner is still the best salesperson within the business. They've got to cast that big vision. Even if you're not selling face-to-face to clients, you got to sell face-to-face to your employees to make them be encouraged of why you're doing what you're doing. And then they have to go out and talk to the clients.
Well, exactly. I mean, you have to be the biggest believer in your business in order for anything to work.
So very true. So what was life like before you implemented Profit First?
Oh, my goodness. I've kind of blocked it out. No. Honestly, it was chaotic. I mean, I had convinced myself that I didn't know how to work with money, that I was bad at finances, that, I just do the pretty stuff. I don't work with the numbers, right? So I had given myself all of these excuses and passes to just ignore my finances for years and years. And would constantly beat myself up when my debt got bigger, when I wasn't able to pay myself, and when I was literally just pulling out scraps of money from my business in order to support myself. And I didn't honestly see a way out of that, because I kept on trying to chase more clients. So I kept it in my mindset. I basically convinced myself that once I get this other client, I'll be able to pay this off. Or once I get this other project, and 2 months from now, if I make sure to get 3 big clients, then I'll be able to solve this, and then I'll be able to make progress, and it'll be all fine then, right? But, then never really happened, right? It was just this constant hamster wheel, this feast and famine up and down. And the only way that I was able to get out of it was to completely change the way that I viewed my finances. And picking up profit first was basically the keystone moment there.
And so then what happened? You implemented profit first, you set up your accounts, and what changed?
So the biggest thing that changed was that I actually started paying myself regular amounts of money. And that was the biggest change personally. I mean, the profit part is cool. The taxes part is cool. Like, it's such a great system. But having an account with money in it that was specifically earmarked for my own wages, even if at the beginning, I was paying myself a very small amount until I could pay off those expenses that I had. It was just such a game changer because I then saw myself as the business owner, as the main driving force behind the business, and I deserved to get paid for those the efforts that I did.
And that's true. So many business owners put themselves last, and you shouldn't. I mean, if you're going to take the risk and you're going to put in all the effort, you deserve to get paid first. And you also need to, because you need to build a strong foundation under yourself. And part of that is a financial foundation. If you're struggling in the business, then it's probably going to roll over into your home life. And that's not easy. So making sure that you're taken care of, your family's taken care of. In your case, you had 2 little kids. Making sure that that's all set makes you so much more productive in your own company.
Oh, absolutely. It just takes a little bit of that brain space away. That part of your brain that was normally set aside and it was in worry mode constantly. It just kind of got put to rest and diverted to other aspects, right? So I could then use that brain power to focus on marketing or doing my work or, playing with my kids.
Which is always good. I love the playing with the kids part. So was there any difficulty or did you run into any issues as you were implementing?
I think the biggest issue that I had was I was working with an accountant. When I first started getting my business kind of in order, I realized that I couldn't do my accounting myself. So I had hired this accountant and bookkeeping company, and they were doing wonders for me. We'd been working together for, I think, 1.5 years or so at the point. And I just called them up one day and I said, okay, so this is what I'm doing. I'm not really asking for your opinion or anything. I'm just letting you know at this point. So things are going to look different in my books and my statements and all this. This is the book it's based off of. So there you go. And at first I got a little bit of pushback because they were like, well, we don't understand why you're doing this. And some of their junior accountants were like, well, where is this money going? And what's this account? So I literally bought them a copy of the book and just said, this is the premise. I was like, it doesn't really make a huge difference to like what you're doing on your side other than, the way where you're finding transactions and stuff like that. So it took me a little bit to kind of train them on it. But once they kind of realized and they actually saw the results in my business finances from it, they were like, oh, yeah, we're totally on board with this.
I can't tell you how many times we hear that story that the client's got to bring the accountant on board. Actually, just before this, I was talking with a bookkeeper and she was like, it seems like it's so many extra transactions and so much extra work. And I said, no, let me lay it out and let me show you how many transactions it is per month. And we counted out for the average client, it would be 10 extra transactions a month and they'd all get downloaded into QuickBooks and they'd all be automated. And she's like, oh, okay. No big deal.
Yeah. Once they saw really what was happening, they were like, oh, okay, that makes total sense. And it was funny at the time, I was working with a financial advisor because I realized that I needed outside help in terms of my money. And so he helped me kind of get back on track with my personal finances more so than with the business finances. And when I started implementing it, I brought him the book and I said, I'm super excited about this. I think you'll be interested in it because he did like, investing strategies and retirement strategies and stuff for his clients. And I said, this is what I'm doing. It's working really well for me. I think you'd really like this book. And so he was like, yeah, okay, for sure. And he took it home and read it. And about a month later, I got an email from him being like, Gabby, I love this so much. I'm going to start recommending it to all of my clients who are business owners. And about a year later, he ended up going through the process of becoming a Profit First certified professional too.
I can't tell you how many times that's usually how accountants and bookkeepers come to Profit First, is because their clients forced them into it. They saw how great it was, and then they started implementing, and then they're like, I got to do this for all of my clients. The surprising thing is, when you talk about a financial advisor, Profit First, the principles of Profit First have been around forever. Mike just implemented it in the business. But if you think about it as a person, it's pay yourself first, and it's about automating your finances so that your savings are automatically automated, and that you're giving every dollar a job and you're sending it to where it needs to be with a purpose. And that's the way I built my wealth. I had all these automated strings going to as my got my pay, that money went to different places to get saved. And it's the same thing the government does. The reason they take out taxes from your paycheck every week or 2 weeks or however often you're paid is because if they waited till the end of the year for you to pay them, you wouldn't have any money. You would have spent it all. And it's the same principles. These principles always apply, regardless of where you're at.
Yeah. And really the biggest thing for me too was the automating of it, just making it automatic so that I didn't have to go in and manually do all of these tasks. I didn't have to go into my bank account and, send money here and save money there. I set it up once, it goes automatically, and I literally don't even notice it. I don't even know what it's doing. Every once in a while, I'll log in and check some accounts and go, oh, there's a lot of money in that savings account. That's awesome. Or, oh, that's totally more than enough in that taxes account to pay this year. Okay, that's great.
And that's basically your profit accounts do grow and they turn into vault accounts so that should you have, like you said last year, you only were able to work for a part of the year because life, you at least have those vault accounts to help you survive. When tax time comes, the money is there and all the fear and anxiety goes away. So it frees up your mind and your business can prosper and grow even faster. So what's life like now that Profit First is fully implemented and humming along?
Well, now it's full steam ahead. Honestly, I've paid off almost all of my debt. I've been able to up my owner's compensation every single quarter. I basically pay myself more and more and more. And that's a really good feeling. And just those expenses keep going down and down and down. And the numbers being able to be adjusted every quarter is just so much fun to play with. And I look forward to doing my finances now because it's not like, you're looking through your fingers like at a horror movie, like, oh, what am I going to see today? Right. You're delightfully surprised rather than like shocked and horrified.
And when things are enjoyable, you're more apt to do them.
Yeah.
But when they're stressful, then you ignore them. And that's essentially what happened with you. So I know, what do you have to say to the listeners who are not sure if they should implement Profit First?
You know what I'd say? To get the book, read it, and just make a few notes about how you could possibly put it into place into your business. Just kind of start conceptualizing it at first. Because you don't have to dive in head first. You don't have to set up the entire system, all in one go for it to work. You can start doing small little actions towards it. So, the first thing you could do is just open up your taxes account. Because I think that's the most important part of it, is just putting money away for taxes. Because I know every single year in January, I would get a giant surprise when my tax notice came due. And I would just be like, oh my gosh, where's this money coming from?
That wasn't a surprise. You knew it was coming. You just forgot about it.
Yeah, it was like, but I never knew how much it was, right? So It was always kind of a guessing game. Well, would I have enough? Wouldn't I have enough? And so if you want to implement anything from it first, do the taxes portion first. Don't worry about the profit and the owner's comp and all that. And then you can kind of like slowly roll it in. Then you can maybe bring in the owner's comp portion of it. Then you can bring in the profit part of it. And you can just do it slowly at your own time period.
The biggest thing is getting started. And that is the biggest hurdle for most people in life, is getting started. But once you start, it becomes so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
Any closing thoughts about Profit First?
Oh, I'm just so thankful. And it's funny because Profit First is one of those things that when someone gets it and someone knows it, it's almost like you all drank the Kool-Aid, because everybody is like completely behind it once they really start using it and when they realize how beneficial it is. So I know that can put people off because they're like, oh my gosh, why are this like cult of people talking about this way of doing business finances? But it really is so popular, and it really is creating these, bands of raving fans, because it really does work, and it's not complex, and it really does have the power to change your business.
And I know people struggle with that. The fact that it's so simple, they're like, how can something so simple work? But simple works in everything in life. The problem is we try to make everything complex instead of just accepting the simplicity.
Right? We think in order to be valuable, it should be complex, but really that's not the case.
That is so true. If people would like to learn more about you, your services, and the well-paid creative, what's the best way for them to do that?
For sure. So the best place to find me is at GabrielleChipeur.com. And that's where you can find me on the Well Paid Creative podcast. And I have lots of freebies, and we have a great community over there. So if you're a creative professional who's looking to grow your own business, then you can come and get some specialized advice and a great sense of community over there.
And I recommend you all check it out. I heard she had a great guest on not too long ago.
Yeah.
Cool. And I will make sure to put that in the show notes so that you can just click and go right to her site. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Rocky. This was a blast.
We really need to start adding money to our school systems. Everyone goes to school to learn how to make money. They aren't taught how to keep it and how to handle it. Hopefully this podcast has been helping you to do just that. Let's automate and implement Profit First, and you too can enjoy the rewards of your business. And if you need to drag your accountant and bookkeeper along, well, let's just do it. Remember, you don't need more resources. You need to be more resourceful. We focus on the bottom line. If you want a done-for-you service, you can have me as your Chief Profitability Officer, because you have your zone of genius and want to spend your time doing what you love. I only work with a handful of clients, so they get my full attention. I work with business owners who have or are growing to $500,000 to $5 million in revenue. You can use the scheduling link in the show notes to get on my calendar for a good fit conversation to see if I'm the right person to support you and how I can help you. If you want to learn about living the life of your dreams, check out my other podcast, Richer Soul. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.